Welcome to Hiring Happy Humans, where we talk about all things HR with a variety of folks, from CEOs to community partners, sharing up-to-date trends, best practices, and our wild workplace stories. Each interview is designed to leave you with the knowledge to keep your sanity. I'm your host, Dawn Sipley of Sipley the Best. Thanks for joining in, and let's jump into this week's episode. Welcome back to Hiring Happy Humans. I am just so thrilled today to be joined by another soldier in human resources. Lisa Ealy is joining me today. She is the president and amazing leader of the Purple Squirrel Group, which I can't wait to hear the story behind that name. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, well, Dawn, I sincerely appreciate you inviting me into this space. And in the short amount of time that we've even chatted right before we turned on the recording, I think we have so many things in common. And I'm looking forward to, really having just a conversation with you about all the things hiring, about HR, and really just deepening our connection,
Yeah.
and getting to know your audience a little bit more and having them get to know me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you could just give us a little bit of the backstory of the Purple Squirrel Group. You have been around with this organization for quite some time. I know when I think of 10 years ago, I think of the 90s, but it was a little bit longer than that. So kudos for you for having such a long running organization. Tenure like that as a leader is hard to do.
Well, I appreciate you recognizing that. And I know you also shared with me that you've been a recruiter. So
Yes.
I've been a recruiter as well. And so the Purple Squirrel Group is literally a marrying of two things. One, purple is my favorite color.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have something to do with Prince. I will say that.
Okay.
And the purple squirrel is a concept in recruiting where it is this unique, special candidate that
Okay.
is so rare.
Yes.
Akin to in Las Vegas, they call it a whale, right?
Right.
But we both know, Dawn, that purple squirrels don't exist. And so the premise behind it for me is that we help organizations turn their brown squirrels purple.
Oh, that's cute.
Um, and that's really where it comes from.
I love that. I love that. We call them unicorns around here. So what made you start your organization in the beginning? Because you were not that old, and so you had to have been a young lady when you dug into entrepreneurship. What made you take that leap of faith?
Yeah, that's really a great question because it kind of happened by accident.
Okay.
It really did. And so because I had been in a human resources role, and also really, really active in my church at the time,
Mm-hmm.
that I always got pulled in, asked questions about things HR related.
Yep.
And that's kind of where it happened. And my
Okay.
accountant at the time said to me, well, what is this stuff over here? What is this income?
Mm.
And that made me formalize it
Okay.
um, as well. And so from there, I just got the entrepreneurial bug and decided, a few years later, once my income had exceeded the income I was making
Mm-hmm.
in my full-time employer
Mm-hmm.
consistently, I think it's time.
Okay.
And I'm sure some of you that are listening to this might be thinking, wow, right? But it was. And my family and my friends and my husband were all like, what are you doing?
Right.
But it
Quitting your
was
job.
time. Yeah, it was time. And I've never looked back.
Okay.
So it's been an amazing, um, fulfilling, and blessed journey.
Mm, mm. There is nothing that will get you closer to the Lord than starting a business because it is nothing but a faith walk at times.
Yes.
So, with the tenure of your organization, how has the organization evolved over time? Because I would venture to guess it does not look the same as it did that day that you took the leap and quit the job and dedicated your full resources to it?
Yeah, I would say actually in the beginning, we've come full circle. In the
Okay.
beginning, we started out doing HR related activities for small businesses
Hmm.
and for church and parachurch organizations. Then we started a practice in career coaching.
Okay.
This was around the downturn in the economy. I won't say the year, but it was the last one. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
And we began intentionally focusing on helping people to create their dream careers and lives.
Hmm.
Still doing HR, but not
Hmm.
necessarily as focused on it.
Right.
And then, kind of full circle, um, something happened, in 2020. Our entire world was impacted by the pandemic and COVID. And suddenly it was very difficult for businesses to figure out their HR people hiring landscape. And that business then kind of exploded again.
Okay.
And so now we're going down these two paths, again, coming back to, I think, our roots and
Hmm.
focusing more intentionally right now, at least on HR, but still doing those two pieces.
So you're like simply the best then. You work on what I call both sides of the fence, both the employer side and the candidate side.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
those two have kind of married a little bit, I'm
They,
sure.
they are.
For
They are.
you,
You
right?
can't share with one side what the other side is seeking unless you are having those live, real, organic conversations because the economy, the situations have morphed. Priorities have changed, generations have grown older in the workforce, new ones have entered. And so what I was doing 10 years ago is not, it doesn't look the same as it did then, because we have had a global pandemic. Things do look different and whatnot. So,
They definitely do. And there's something about having those two, married in one organization as well. And you mentioned some of the valuable points, but
mm-hmm.
also in working with, smaller businesses, typically under 50 employees, is that they've had to divest some of those employees. Maybe they've reorganized, maybe they've done a merger on a small basis and really trying to figure out what it could be next for those valuable employees. And so also being in a unique place to be able to help those individuals to find their next employment location.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we actually have an offboarding package as well to assist those companies with offboarding, which is really just our career coaching funded by the employer. It's the same it's the same program. So, I love that. I love that. Now, you had mentioned before you were not a solopreneur. You've got a team under you. Can you share with us what your team looks like and what different specialties that they hold in your
Yeah.
organization?
So we do have a sales arm where we outreach, right? More recently, in the last couple of years, we hired a business development manager, and
Wow.
that person actually has two direct reports.
Okay.
We have a director of operations, and we have underneath that person is a comp, benefits,
Mm.
payroll.
That's its own creature right there. There's a
Yeah,
certain kind of person that loves that. It ain't me, but
yeah. I
so,
concur. I
yes.
concur.
Yeah.
We actually have on retainer someone who can help with labor related issues, and a few generalists, and that goes up and down as well. And we do some recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
However, I am entering in some joint ventures as well. And some of that, depending on the level, we have partnered with another organization to assist with that, who's in some cases just better equipped
Right.
um, as well, depending on the nature of the role. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what the team looks like, and we can, scale up and scale
Right.
down. And one of the things I think I've learned in these last 4 years, of, the changes that we faced that are unique right now for our life, I would say,
Right.
with COVID and the pandemic, is how important it is to partner and to joint venture. And so it's one of the things that is a game changer as well. Whereas I think, I don't know, in 2019, it just wasn't on my radar.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
now, in fact, it's really how we're growing organically is through partnerships.
Right.
And I'm so glad that I was home long enough to start just looking at things and saying, well, why should I recreate every single wheel when
Right.
I can just partner?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So was little Lisa like, I want to be an HR director when I grow up? Like, what, tell us how you even got into the world of HR? Because oftentimes when I go to schools and I speak to our younger audiences, they're like, how'd you do it? And I'm like, my path is a crooked, weird one. There is no wrong way. And so I love to hear from other professionals what led them, to essentially something quite similar.
Yeah, so that is a great question. And so I say that I grew up being a generalist. And so for those who don't know about HR generalists, they generalize in a lot of things that are related to people. And growing up, I did a lot of things. I did tap, I did ballet, I learned how to play the flute, the violin. I
Wow.
took acting classes. I did like all these things. I was in the Girl Scouts. I loved camping and fishing and, like all the things, right? I did some off-road bike riding even.
Wow.
And so I remember my dad always remarking, like, do one thing and just stick with it, right?
Right.
And so for me, I actually went to undergraduate and have a graduate degree in accounting and finance.
Mm.
And so it just happened. I volunteered for a implementation of a CRM um, uh, and from there, I became a trainer, a
Okay.
designer, delivery developer
Yep. Yep.
for that. And that was really like my first step into the HR direction.
Mm.
And then I was promoted into an HR specialist slash trainer position
Mhm.
and then grew from there.
Okay.
But I did not go wake up one day and say, I'm going to be an HR
Right.
person. It didn't happen that way, but it really fit and it still fits because I like doing different things.
Right.
So,
And I think the beauty about being a consultant is we do have the opportunity to step foot in all these amazing organizations and see what their culture looks like, what their office setup looks like, what their product is, how they deliver their services. And I just find it absolutely fascinating as a fellow entrepreneur that you can have two clients that essentially do the same thing but are totally different. And then thus far from that, the candidates that you would send to them for consideration, same qualifications, but I would not send one to the other and vice versa.
yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the things that's key, and I can tell by our conversation that you have a handle on this, is really understanding the culture
Mm,
as well, because the HR consultant becomes a trusted partner in the
right,
business.
right.
And it's part of the reason why I love the title HR business partner,
Yeah.
because it really does fit
Hmm.
from that standpoint, because you want your people person to partner with you as you're on the road to success.
Yeah.
And, I believe it is J.W. Marriott. He says this, famously coined, that if you take care of your people,
Hmm.
they will take care of your business.
Yes.
And I say the people are your power.
Mm-hmm. 100%. It's they're coming from staffing, I was in that industry for 12 years. And what turned me off about that particular industry was sometimes companies were attracted to us because they felt like people were widgets. And they'd be like, I don't like this one, send me a new one, and it was just all like, and I made the most money off of the people that treated their
Mm.
folks just like widgets. But it was the ones that I fell in love with that would come to me and go, Dawn, how did you find someone in 2 weeks when I've been searching 6 months for this role? And I was like, I can't tell you, that's my secret sauce. When you do contingent search, you can't let the cat out of the bag. And so that's how Simply the Best ended up being born, was really out of a desire to make better entrepreneurs, to make better bosses, and to find those people who were attracted to the idea of learning how to fish and not just being handed the fish for the day.
Nice, nice. Yeah. That secret sauce, right, is important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what makes all of us unique at what we do. And it also helps us to be better partners with the
Yeah.
businesses that we,
Yeah.
right, partner with.
Now, you used the word culture before, and that's just such a big word. I always, if anyone ever uses it, I go, well, how do you define culture?
Mm.
And then what do you look for when you're doing your facility tours? I have a few things that I look for and try to observe, but what do you observe and how do you define culture?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so for me, culture is the feeling, how you operate. It's also how you want people to feel
Mm,
and
mm-hmm,
operate, right?
mm-hmm,
And it is, I'll say it this way, it's what does the air smell like, right?
mm. Oh,
Like, what are you breathing in here? And is it good or is it toxic for me,
right,
right?
right.
So that's really key. For me, some of the things that I look for is, I've had some roles in the past where there's like, I was the safety person.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have an eye for that and
Yeah,
things that are unsafe,
yeah.
right?
You
Um,
can't unsee those things once you're
right,
trained
right,
in that.
right. You just can't. So that sometimes stands out.
Mm-hmm.
I also look to see how the offices are situated, right? Like, is it open?
Right.
Um, who has an office? Um, who can use offices?
Mm-hmm.
What are the facilities like?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, is it clean and neat?
Mm-hmm.
Are there certain amenities? Whether it's, a refrigerator, a microwave,
Mm-hmm.
um, a coffee available. Um,
Right.
is it free? Is everything paid, right? Is it a pleasant environment? Um,
Mm-hmm.
are the mission, vision, values visible? And not necessarily written on the wall,
Right. Right.
but if I walk in, do I know what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What's going on here? Do I feel welcome?
Yeah.
I say this too. Do I feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do they have, certain guidelines? Is anything posted, right?
Mm-hmm.
No concealed carry, other things like what's happening? Um,
Right.
kind of like in the environment
Mm-hmm.
from that standpoint.
I love to watch people's reactions when I walk into the room with a boss man. Are they back at it and, quiet, kind of head down? Or is it, oh, hey, Joe, who you got with you? And how do they interact with me? Are they curious about me or do they dare not ask a question? Are they playing music or are their cubicles decorated or is it more sterile? And then and I've probably said this on the podcast before, but two places that I judge a client on because I've never had a healthy work environment that had nasty break rooms and bathrooms. The two places where your employees spend time, unpaid time. So, how comfortable, to what extent are you willing to go to have those areas pleasant or nice, or to what degree? If the microwave's nasty and there's old food in the fridge and the table wobbles and none of the chairs match, I hate to say it. I hate to say it. And some people might argue with me, but I'd be concerned about the leadership in that type of organization that would set someone up to share a meal in an environment like that. You
Yeah.
know? But
That's
if
a
you
very
go
great.
into the bathroom and there's a basket full of, you know, materials and goodies or whatever for the ladies to use, and it smells clean and it's fresh, and you want to stop and check your makeup and, you know, primp your hair or do whatever, and then all right, back to work, you know, or you just like, oh, get me out of here, you know, kind of thing. So I always try to sneak into those two spaces.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that those are great things to pay attention to, right? But those are also low-hanging fruit that can really be fixed like in a weekend
Right.
or less.
Right.
And it's like you're the heroine if you get it
Right.
right. So like,
Absolutely.
I definitely don't want to see that, but um I'm also looking around and observing, is there
Mm-hmm.
something that can be shifted
Mm-hmm.
that's real simple, that is visible that people will feel right away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Making that immediate impact is always, you know, not for the negative, not policies and procedures, but just sprinkling a little joy in the beginning of a relationship always kicks it off to a nice start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I know on your website you do contingent searches, temp to perm, and all of that. So you're obviously well versed in interviewing. What are some of your favorite interview questions, and what are you looking for in the answer? Because sometimes it's not even the answer, as we know, but it's the a message behind an answer. Do you have a few that are kind of top of mind that are
Yeah.
some of your favorites?
So I have one interview question that's my favorite all time.
Okay,
And I have one that's new, and I'll share that one as well. That's like
great.
a must.
Okay.
So my favorite question of all time, and I will tell you, it really comes from someone that interviewed me for a top HR position years ago. And he really only ever asked me one question
Mm.
and then just delve into everything that I shared.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we meandered through an entire interview based on the question, which is
Okay.
not uncommon, but he really paid close attention to my answers and
Mhm.
really just asked me to tell him more about that.
Okay.
And the question is, tell me about yourself,
Oh, that's a loaded
right?
one. You'll get some wild answers.
That's right. But I will, and this is the question that I think when we're coaching clients
Mhm.
on interviewing that we
Mhm.
spend the most time on. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes it is an opening question, an
Right.
initial question. It might also include the hook, and why you're interested in this role, why are you here today, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But this is what I tell candidates, if you fail to deliver on the question,
Right.
right, then the interview is pretty much over.
Mhm.
Because it's hard to recover if you don't answer it well.
Mhm.
And so I'll say what I'm not looking for. What I'm not looking for is that you were born, not that this is wrong, on the red hills in Georgia. I don't want to know that.
Right.
I don't need to know that. I
Right.
don't want you to share information that is considered
Protected.
protected
Mhm.
information as well. So I don't want to know how many kids you have.
Mhm.
I don't want to know if you're planning on getting married or having more kids. I don't want to know where you go to church, if you believe in God or not. I don't want
Mhm.
to know any of that stuff. I don't want to know how old you are, right? And I don't want you even to allude to anything that would tell me how old you are,
Right.
right? So I'm not looking for that. But what I am looking for is I am looking for your passion about why you're here today, why
Mhm.
you're interested in this career path that this
Mhm.
job is on, and the value that you can add to this position based on your background, your experience, your knowledge, and your abilities. And I'm
Mhm.
also interested to learn a little bit more about you and how would it be for us to work together.
Right.
So if you smile a lot, you should be smiling. If
Mhm.
you're a little funny and lighthearted, you should be a little funny and a little lighthearted.
Right.
I was listening to someone say something earlier today, and I didn't get to hear the whole comment, but they do workplace comedy. and they were talking about how comedy has a place in the workplace. And
Of
I do
course.
believe that to a point. But you've got to really know what's appropriate, what's not
Yes.
appropriate, what's funny, what's not funny, and
Yes.
be really, really careful about it. But
Mhm.
um, keep it light if you're that person.
Right.
And sometimes I'll say one of the things that I will typically say to keep things light is sometimes you get asked a question that's really a tough question. And I will say, that's really a tough question. I've
Right.
never been asked that before, and
Right.
kind of chuckle a little. And so that gives the person that's interviewing me a little insight on my personality,
Right.
because I do chuckle and laugh a little, and
Yeah.
I want the person to know.
Mm, I love that. I love that. So that's the one that you have been
That's
using.
that's
What's
the
your
one I've been using for all time. And then
right?
depending on what the person says, I said, well, tell me more about that. That's really interesting,
Right.
about that experience, about that knowledge, about that project, right? And just go like you're just going in and meandering wherever you want to.
Yeah.
Now, the question for 2024 that is a must ask question that
Yes.
every candidate should expect and every hiring manager must ask is, tell me how you're using generative AI, chat GPT, Bard, Genie, whatever it is
Right.
in your life on a daily basis.
Wow.
Because I'm going to tell you, so we hear the things that say
Mm,
AI, and I'm just using AI in a general,
right.
generic
Yeah,
term,
it's a
is
huge
going to
word.
take people's jobs. I do not believe AI will take people's jobs. What I do believe is that AI will take the jobs of people who do not embrace it.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And
Mm,
so maybe you not haven't figured out how to use AI in at work yet,
right.
but there are so many ways. So, for example, last year, for my father's milestone birthday, we had a birthday party for him, and I used AI to make a playlist.
Oh, fun.
I used AI to make an order for activities on the birthday. I used in my everyday life, I used AI to say, I have these 4 or 5 ingredients in my refrigerator. Give me a healthy recipe,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And I use AI in my business as well.
mm-hmm.
Recently hired 2 individuals. I used AI to help me come up with a uh, a related um, test activity for them to do.
Oh,
And
good.
did I tweak it? Yes,
Well, of
but I did
course.
start with a blank page. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so AI is everywhere. It is here to stay.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
must expect that question as a
Mm-hmm.
candidate, and you must ask some form of that question to any future hire, no matter what hire or position they're fulfilling.
Interesting. What do you think it says about the person overall with how they answer it? Because some people are early adopters to technology and some people are laggers.
Yeah.
Assumptions would
So
you make about that?
yeah. So I don't know. My expectation would be that they've tried it, period.
Right.
Right. Because it's it's a game changer just in that short amount of time, right? So this is a year ago, 2023 in April,
Hmm.
right? And so
I mean, it's been
I'm curious,
around.
right?
It,
It's
I
been
mean,
around, but
yeah.
more I think in the news, right?
Right. Right.
From that standpoint. And the tools that are available,
Mm-hmm.
are most of them are free. There's a
Mm-hmm.
free version of it that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just Google one thing, how can I use AI to X?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to come up with something.
Right.
I would be concerned as an employer, because if you're not using something that's so freely accessible
Right.
that can help you save time,
Mm-hmm.
we hear the word time is money, but
Mm.
I personally believe time is actually equated to life. It is not money, because I believe money grows on trees, but that's a whole other conversation. But time does not, because it is our most valuable resource. So if you're not willing to invest some time in learning a tool that could save you time, which is life, then we
Right.
need to have a whole other kind of conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's kind of like, do I want to clean my house with a
Right.
broom, or do I want to use a vacuum cleaner?
Right. Right. Yeah, I wrote
Right?
that down. That was good. Time is life, money grows on trees, because literally that is what it is. Our life is just nothing but a combination of moments that we string together
That's right.
into minutes, hours, and days and years, So I love that. I love that. What a great nugget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know about anyone else out there, but we could keep going with that conversation for sure. So like, it's the reason why we have a dishwasher. I'm
Right.
not washing the dishes.
Right.
I'm not using a broom and a dustpan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not using one anyway, but if I were, right,
Right.
I surely would use a vacuum cleaner because it's quicker
Yeah.
and it's more efficient,
Yeah.
right?
One of my best newsletters was called Hire What You Hate. And it was kind of on that same line. Like, don't do the things that begrudging you, hire that out, stay in your 10, do what you do best, make the money, and then pay somebody else to kind of do it. But it's not even that now technology, you don't even have to hire someone. You can lean into that technology, to do those things. So it's just another huge shift, just like cars were a huge shift, electricity was a huge shift. Information is no longer it's it's no longer valuable in the way that it is accessible to everyone. I mean, YouTube raised me. If I needed, I didn't call my mom. I didn't have no mom to call. I Googled it, and it usually took me to YouTube, and I watched a video and I figured out like how to do this, that, or the other. So really it's about the delivery and the relationships, and how you bring the information that I think brings value to yourself, in the marketplace, not the information itself. Anyone can Google, how do I interview? What interview questions to ask? The Department of Labor can tell you what paperwork you must have to have a candidate legally compliant, but no technology will replace the welcoming, arms of an employer on someone's first day of work. Like, how do they roll out what that looks like? That is a human experience, and that cannot be duplicated.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And from an ethical standpoint, one of the things I get asked that question by clients is ethically, like, what do we do? And one of our clients is a government agency here in DC,
Mm-hmm.
and they are embracing a form of AI. Now, it is not the latest form, but they
Mm-hmm.
are embracing it. And the restrictions, of course, are related to anything that is considered classified,
Right.
like it would be for anything else.
Of
And
course.
so I definitely agree with what you just said. At the end of the day, and this is the other thing, this is a funny story if I could share, because we're
Please.
talking about like HR stuff and
Right.
like interesting kind of like things. So of late, I've had individuals who have used AI in whatever form there is. There's so many different ones out there, to create a job description or to create a handbook or something like that. And you can do that. And this is what I say to the clients who want to go down that route. I will guarantee you that if your job description does has a misclassification on it, or
Right.
something that is an issue related to the Department of Labor, or something is off, or you're not your state isn't at will state, or whatever it is, I will guarantee you that whatever tool you use,
Mm.
they will not be able to defend you. They will not be able to, if you are called in to
Right.
go to court or defend, or if you have to be audited, They
Right.
will not be present to assist you in that process in any way, shape, or form. Very much like what you just said, they
Right.
will not be there to hold your hand. They will not be there to wipe the sweat off of
Right.
your brow because you will be sweating if someone comes on site. Um, so if that works for you, then it works for me, but then I am not your HR consultant,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Because you've hired AI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And typically when we go down that route, they get it,
Yeah.
right? And I personally ethically do not believe that you should be asking questions of AI that you're not familiar with what the answer should be, right? And we're not talking about making a playlist or something like that. So I have a client that is in the financial services area, and we were working on some things. And I encourage my clients to use the tools, the AI tools, to help them solve problems in their business.
Right.
And it came back with some real answers according to him. But I had no idea
Right.
because I don't do the kind of work that he does.
Right. Right.
And so, how would I know if I ask that question? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to eliminate the accountant and the CPA in my business. How do I even know? I would have to do so much to figure out if it's valid, if it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So again, ethically speaking, I think that yes, give me some exercises. Yes, give me a playlist. Yes, I'm comfortable filling in, getting me started on an email or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I ask a difficult HR related question, I would still have to do a bunch of double checking.
Mm-hmm.
But Dawn, I believe that you and I are equipped to determine if an answer from AI is accurate or not.
Right.
But someone who does not have the knowledge, skills, and experience cannot. And if
Right.
you go with it, AI won't show up in
Yes.
court.
Yes. I love you've just got so much amazing insight, and I'm so glad that you wrote a book and were able to capture some of that. What is Profit Amplified all about? And
Yeah,
who should be
so
reading it?
oh yeah, so it's for entrepreneurs, it's for small business owners, and it's also for HR teams as well and leaders. And it has a profit focus. So I
Okay.
know oftentimes we've heard that the people in our organizations, in many organizations, in fact, I don't think I've been in many organizations where the labor cost isn't one of the highest
Oh yeah,
expenses that they have,
always.
right? But it's really about turning that ordinary team extraordinary
Mm,
and creating strategies so that everyone adds to the profitability of the business and is not considered a liability.
mm, mm. Yeah, I love that. I it always just befuddles me that employers will spend money on headhunters. They'll spend money on technology, and then they'll skimp on like the training and the investment of the workforce that is providing the product and the service that they do every single day. And they just figured that, well, they should just know how to do it. I hired them because of, yeah, but you still have to make this ongoing investment, not an annual conference or a retreat, not a bonus to show appreciation, but a true, interest in your workforce and an investment that they're always scaling up. I forget who said it. But there's an old adage that, well, what if I train them and I pour all this money, time, and effort into them and they just leave? It's like, well, what if you don't and they stay?
Right. That's really good. That's really good. And actually,
Like that sounds it's so, I mean, yeah, I get the entrepreneurs, the business owners, management's like profit risk kind of mitigation. And but you know what, the best sign that you're being an excellent employer and a good steward of your community is by making it better. We don't live
Um,
really in a society where people retire from you anymore. So people have to get that out of their mindset. Unless you're offering pensions, don't think that they're going to be with you 30 years,
right.
because oftentimes there's value in tenure, but full life legacy stuff just isn't the norm anymore. So knowing where that balance is, I think, is really important for employers.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. I think you hit the nail on the head for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it's a simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I talk a little bit about ideas about employee development
Mm.
as well, and making those investments.
Right.
Um, but in doing things that aren't necessarily thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right. Yeah, it
And
doesn't
so,
cost much. Use
right,
AI.
exactly. Right. So, and some things other than the time that the person is taking to do it, or you're encouraging them to do it, um, is enough. But you are so right, is that why would you want someone to stay that isn't being developed? Like they're the same skill level
Mm-hmm.
as they had 5 years ago. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is not going to help your business grow
Right.
at all.
If you had to go into an organization and you could only impact one area, because you and I both know that we dive into different areas, what area would you choose just to really drive home and solidify that could probably solve more than just that problem?
Well, I say the heart and soul of every business is its people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, and you said it a few minutes ago. The people do everything. They're selling your products, they're servicing your clients, they're processing invoices, they're following up, they're all the things, they're doing the things. You might have systems and tools in place that are
Right.
helping, but there are people driving that. So I think the one thing I believe that impacts profitability and the success of a business more so than anything else is its innovation, right? It's innovation
Yeah.
because there's always a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm very passionate about the business that I have. But if I am always the smartest person in the room, even in the rooms in my business, then there's something wrong.
Amen.
So
Amen.
I really believe that leaders should invest and hire individuals who are smarter than them,
Mm-hmm.
who can innovate things, but also try it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
try it and see, let
Right.
people go.
Yeah.
I would definitely say it's the people innovation.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Love that. So I ask every person at the end of our time together, what is just one piece of advice that you would give little Lisa at 18 years old that would maybe save her some grief, some time, maybe some money? What's one piece of advice you would give yourself at
Ooh.
18, knowing what you know now?
Um, the one piece of advice I would say, I wish I had knew this sooner.
Mm.
Um, and I know we haven't talked a lot about this necessarily and who
Mhm.
both of us are, but I would say trust God.
Amen. Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And I think that I get what that means way more now than I
Right.
did when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I just think about if I just trusted God and not
Yeah.
like try to get all unraveled and I'm gonna figure it out on my own and all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
So I really feel like that's the advice I would give. I
That's
would
a
give
good
her.
word. Young Dawn was a hustler and thought it was all up to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Whew, thank God it isn't.
yeah. It would be trust God.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for coming and sharing just a little bit about your HR journey and what you do, how you do it, and more than anything, why you do it. All right, everybody, catch us on the next episode. Thanks again for spending time with us today. If you want more HR stories and resources, go to simplythebest.com to join our newsletter. That's SIPLEY. Until next time, stay happy.